mill is starting to swirl, man. We getting some new information out of Cleveland that the Cleveland Browns veteran players are about to turn their back on Kevin Stefanski. And is he losing control over the locker room? Now, we've seen this whole quarterback situation play out through the draft. We've seen what's happening in training camp, seen what's happening in practice, and we've seen what's happening in preseason. Now, all camp long, there's reports that was surfacing and people.
Listen, what I'm about to tell you is going to completely change how you see the Cleveland Browns situation, because this goes so much deeper than anyone's been reporting. We're not just talking about a simple quarterback controversy or a coaching staff disagreement. We're talking about a full-scale organizational war that's happening right now, and the fallout from this is going to reshape the entire future of this franchise in ways that nobody saw coming. Tommy Reese didn't just take over play-calling duties from Kevin Stefanski. He walked into that building and immediately started executing what can only be described as a calculated coup. And the target of this takeover isn't some abstract concept or philosophical difference about offensive scheme. The target is Dylan Gabriel's starting quarterback job, and the weapon Tommy Reese is using to take it away is Shedeur Sanders. This whole thing started when the Browns front office finally admitted what everyone watching games already knew. Kevin Stefanski's offense was broken beyond repair, and something drastic needed to happen before the season became a complete write-off. So they made the decision to strip Stefanski of play-calling responsibilities, which is essentially NFL code for "you're losing control and we need someone else to fix this mess." But here's what makes this situation absolutely unprecedented. Normally, when a head coach loses play-calling duties, the coordinator who takes over operates as an extension of the head coach's vision. They make adjustments within the existing framework, tweak things around the edges, maybe change some terminology or tempo. They don't fundamentally challenge the head coach's most important personnel decisions. Tommy Reese threw that playbook out the window immediately. He looked at Kevin Stefanski's unwavering commitment to Dylan Gabriel as the starting quarterback, evaluated the actual on-field results that commitment has produced, and decided that continuing down that path was organizational malpractice. So he's doing something that offensive coordinators simply don't do. He's actively preparing to replace the head coach's chosen starting quarterback with a rookie that the head coach has systematically ignored and disrespected since day one. The boldness of this move cannot be overstated. Tommy Reese is essentially betting his entire career on Shedeur Sanders being ready to play at a high level right now. He's going directly against his head coach's stated preferences and personnel decisions. He's creating internal organizational conflict that could easily blow up in his face and end his coaching career before it really gets started. And he's doing it anyway because he genuinely believes that Shedeur gives the Browns the best chance to win, and that continuing with Dylan Gabriel is a guaranteed path to failure. According to multiple sources who have direct access to what's happening inside that Browns facility, Tommy Reese has completely transformed how the quarterbacks are being developed and prepared. While Kevin Stefanski was running things, Dylan Gabriel got the overwhelming majority of practice reps, all the focus during meetings, and basically all the organizational resources. Shedeur was treated like an afterthought, someone who might develop into something useful eventually, but wasn't worth significant investment right now. The moment Reese took control, that entire dynamic flipped completely. Shedeur is suddenly getting extensive work with the first-team offense. Not just a few token reps to keep him engaged, but substantial, meaningful practice time running the actual game plan against the starting defense. That's absolutely massive because it signals exactly what Reese's intentions are. You don't give a backup quarterback that kind of preparation unless you're actively planning to play him in real games. But it goes even further than that. Tommy Reese has essentially become Shedeur Sanders' personal quarterback coach, in addition to his coordinator and acting head coach responsibilities. He's spending hours every day working one-on-one with Shedeur on everything from footwork mechanics to reading coverages to understanding defensive tendencies. These aren't casual conversations or quick film reviews. These are intensive development sessions where Reese is transferring every piece of quarterback knowledge he possesses directly into Shedeur's brain. The transformation people are seeing in Shedeur during these practice sessions is apparently remarkable. Players and coaches who've watched him work with the first team are genuinely shocked by how comfortable and confident he looks out there. He's making throws that Dylan Gabriel struggles with consistently. He's processing information quickly and making good decisions under pressure. He's showing leadership qualities and command of the huddle that belies his inexperience. One source described watching Shedeur run a 2-minute drill in practice and being absolutely blown away by how how poised and controlled he was. No panic, no rushed decisions, just methodical, efficient football that moved the offense down the field and put them in position to score. That's exactly the kind of performance that makes coaches believe a young quarterback is ready for the real thing. When Tommy Reese held his press conference and discussed Shedeur, the language he used was incredibly revealing if you know how to read between the lines. He praised Shedeur's work ethic extensively, but that's not particularly unusual. Coaches praise players' work ethic all the time. What was unusual was the specific way Reese described Shedeur's mental development and processing ability. Reese talked about how the game has started slowing down for Shedeur, which is coach speak for saying that his mental processing has reached the point where he can handle NFL speed decision-making. He described watching Shedeur anticipate defensive movements and see plays developing before they actually happen, which is the hallmark of elite quarterback play, and he said all of this with genuine conviction and enthusiasm, not the kind of generic praise coaches give when they're just trying to be supportive. That's Tommy Reese putting his professional reputation on the line by publicly declaring that this rookie quarterback has the mental tools necessary to succeed in the NFL right now. And he's doing it knowing that if he's wrong, if Shedeur gets his chance and struggles badly, everyone will remember these comments and question Reese's judgment for years to come. Then came the moment that confirmed what everyone suspected but couldn't quite prove yet. A reporter asked Reese directly about whether Shedeur would be starting soon, trying to pin him down on the timeline, and Reese's answer was absolute perfection in terms of managing the political situation while still signaling his true intentions. He said his focus was on where they are right now, that the quarterback decision wasn't his immediate focus. On the surface, that sounds like classic coach deflection, refusing to commit to anything specific. But if you actually analyze what he said, and more importantly, what he very deliberately didn't say, the message becomes crystal clear. He didn't say Dillon Gabriel was definitely the starter going forward. He didn't say Shedeur wasn't ready to play. He didn't give any indication that he was committed to the current quarterback arrangement. All he said was that he wasn't discussing the timing publicly, which strongly suggests the decision has already been made internally and he's just managing when and how to announce it. That's not a coach who's still evaluating and deciding. That's a coach who knows exactly what's going to happen and is strategically controlling the narrative until the perfect moment to execute his plan. Behind the scenes, the preparation Tommy Reese is putting Shedeur through is apparently unlike anything most people in that building have seen before for a backup quarterback. This isn't just learning the playbook and getting ready in case something happens to the starter. This is comprehensive, intensive training designed to prepare Shedeur for every possible situation he might face as a starting NFL quarterback. Reese has been conducting marathon film study sessions with Shedeur, breaking down every defensive scheme they're likely to face in upcoming games. They're going through specific defensive coordinators' tendencies and favorite pressure packages. They're studying how different teams disguise their coverages and what tells Shedeur should look for before the snap. They're preparing for literally every possible scenario so that nothing catches Shedeur off guard when he gets out there. The mechanical work they've been doing is equally intensive. Reese has brought in specialists to work on Shedeur's footwork, making sure his drops are efficient and his base is solid. They're working on his release, trying to shave milliseconds off his delivery time without sacrificing accuracy. They're perfecting his throwing motion from different arm angles so he can deliver the ball effectively even when the pocket collapses around him. But perhaps most importantly, Tommy Reese has been working extensively on building chemistry between Shedeur and the starting receivers. They're staying after practice running routes, working on timing and ball placement, developing the kind of trust and understanding that allows an offense to function at a high level. Those receivers are apparently buying in completely, excited about the possibility of working with a quarterback who can actually get them the ball in positions to make plays. The energy shift in that building since Tommy Reese took over has been absolutely palpable according to everyone who's experienced it. Under Kevin Stefanski's management, the offense had taken on this defeated, going through the motions quality. Players knew the scheme wasn't working and the quarterback wasn't performing, but they felt powerless to change anything, so they just showed up and collected their paychecks without any real belief or enthusiasm. The moment Reese started preparing Shedeur to take over, that entire atmosphere transformed. Players suddenly have hope again. They see a coordinator who's willing to make tough decisions and try something different rather than stubbornly sticking with failure. They see a young quarterback who's hungry and talented and working his tail off to be ready, and they're responding with renewed energy and effort because they finally believe things might actually improve. Now let's talk about Kevin Stefanski's handling of all this, because it's been absolutely catastrophic from a leadership and management perspective. While Tommy Reese has been building Shedeur up and preparing him to succeed, Stefanski has been actively working to sabotage him and protect Dillon Gabriel at all costs. In press conferences, Stefanski's treatment of Shedeur has bordered on disrespectful. He refuses to acknowledge him as a legitimate option. He gives dismissive non-answers when asked about him. He goes out of his way to praise Dillon Gabriel and express confidence in him despite all evidence suggesting that confidence is wildly misplaced. It's like watching someone in complete denial about reality, unable to admit that his quarterback evaluation was fundamentally wrong. But things escalated to a completely unacceptable level during Stefanski's recent press conference when he actively lied about Shedeur's availability and readiness. He claimed Shedeur showed up to practice banged up, suggested he wasn't fully committed or available, and said he'd evaluated Shedeur during warm-ups and determined he wasn't fit to play. That's not just bad leadership, that's deliberately damaging a young player's reputation to protect your own ego and decision making. And the transparent falseness of those claims makes it even worse. If Shedeur was actually injured, why was he getting extensive first team practice reps? Why was he saying publicly he felt great? Why weren't there any injury designations or reports? Kevin Stefanski fabricated an excuse because he couldn't admit the real reason he won't play Shedeur, which is stubborn loyalty to Dillon Gabriel and unwillingness to admit his evaluation was wrong. And in doing so, he showed every player in that locker room that he's willing to lie and throw people under the bus to protect himself. That kind of behavior destroys trust and creates toxic organizational cultures. The contrast between how Tommy Reese discusses Shedeur and how Kevin Stefanski discusses him reveals everything about their fundamental perspectives and priorities. Reese speaks about Shedeur with genuine belief and excitement, praising his tools and work ethic and readiness. Stefanski either ignores Shedeur completely or makes excuses about why he can't play, treating him like a problem to be managed rather than an asset to be developed. That fundamental difference tells you which coach actually understands the situation and which one is letting ego and stubbornness drive his decision-making. The locker room situation finally exploded publicly when Myles Garrett, the team's best player and unquestioned leader, broke the traditional code about keeping internal issues private and spoke openly about his frustration with the offensive dysfunction. When a player of Garrett's stature and professionalism goes public like that, it's not a minor disagreement. It's a clear signal that things have reached crisis levels internally. Garrett said plainly that he was tired of the quarterback situation, frustrated with coaching decisions, and sick of watching his defense compete at a high level only to watch the offense waste opportunities through poor play. He called out the leadership without using names, making it abundantly clear the players have lost faith in the direction of the team. That's a devastating indictment of Kevin Stefanski's management, and it's the kind of public fracture that's almost impossible to repair. When your best player is openly questioning your decisions and leadership, you've lost the locker room, and once that's gone, getting it back is virtually impossible. Myles Garrett didn't sign a massive extension to stay in Cleveland just to watch the organization waste his prime years with incompetent management. He believed in the vision being sold about building a championship contender, and instead he's gotten an offense that can't function and coaching decisions that defy basic logic. His frustration is completely justified, and his willingness to speak out publicly shows just how desperate the situation has become. Former player and analyst Emmanuel Acho provided important context about how significant Garrett's comments really were. He explained that when a player of Garrett's professionalism breaks the code about keeping issues internal, it means things have deteriorated to absolute crisis levels behind the scenes. Players don't go public unless they've exhausted all internal options and feel they have no choice but to create external pressure to force change. That's exactly where Cleveland is right now. The players know what needs to happen. They know Shedeur needs to get his chance and Dillon Gabriel needs to be benched. They've tried communicating that through internal channels and nothing has changed. So now they're taking it public, hoping that fan pressure and media scrutiny will finally force the organization to do what should have been done weeks ago. So here we stand, watching this organizational civil war unfold, with Tommy Reese on one side aggressively preparing Shedeur to take over, and Kevin Stefanski on the other, desperately trying to maintain control and protect Dillon Gabriel. It's a power struggle that will determine the future of the franchise, and the stakes could not possibly be higher. If Reese succeeds and Shedeur plays well, he becomes a hero who saved the season and potentially earns himself head coaching opportunities down the line. But if Stefanski maintains control, or if Shedeur Shedeur struggles when given his chance, Reese's credibility takes a massive hit and the Browns waste another year. The pressure is absolutely immense and growing exponentially every day. Fans are demanding change on social media. Local media is writing increasingly critical pieces questioning the decision-making. National analysts are weighing in, almost all agreeing that Shedeur deserves his shot. Even former players and coaches are saying publicly that the Browns need to make this change immediately. The consensus is overwhelming. Give Shedeur Sanders the starting job right now and see what happens. What do they have to lose? The season is already falling apart. The locker room is fractured. The fans are angry. Making the change won't automatically fix everything, but at least it shows a willingness to try something different. Tommy Reese understands all this perfectly, which is why he's operating with such urgency to get Shedeur ready. He knows his window is limited, that Stefanski could reassert control at any moment, so he's working around the clock to make sure that when the moment comes, Shedeur will be so obviously ready that no one can justify keeping him on the bench. Every day that passes with Dillon Gabriel under center is another day of wasted opportunity. Every practice where Shedeur gets first-team reps is another step toward the inevitable change everyone knows is coming. Tommy Reese has committed fully to Shedeur Sanders as the franchise's future, and he's doing everything possible to make that future arrive immediately. The only question left is whether the organization will support him, or whether Stefanski's ego will continue blocking progress. Cleveland's entire season hangs in the balance, and the decision about who leads this offense will determine whether this franchise finally breaks through or continues its decades-long pattern of disappointment and dysfunction. The clock is ticking, and everyone is watching to see who makes the first move in this high-stakes showdown.